No sign of the embattled Chief Constable today, but at 4 p.m, a statement many had thought inevitable after months of pressure.
The Chief Constable, Craig Guildford, has today retired from West Midlands Police with immediate effect.
The Police and Crime Commissioner, the only person with the power to sack Craig Guildford, instead announcing he'd been allowed to retire.
It was important this matter was resolved in a balanced, calm, fair, measured and respectful manner.
For the local independent MP, Ayub Khan, the matter has been anything but calm or measured.
Truly is. I mean, it is a witch hunt that has come to fruition.
Why do you call it a witch hunt?
Even if he got that decision wrong, which I don't think he did.
The decision to ban the fans.
To ban the fans. That is not grave enough for politicians to seek his firing or resignation. The chilling effect is going to be you do not have operational independence.
What began as a local operational decision about a football match last November descended into a national row in the context of protests over Gaza and accusations of anti-Semitism. Maccabi Tel Aviv fans were banned from attending the game against Villa after concerns about potential violence. This week, an official inquiry found West Midlands Police used exaggerated and untrue intelligence to justify that ban. The Chief Constable had to apologise to the Home Affairs Select Committee for misleading evidence, including this.
You've used AI, or West Midlands may have used AI on this particular occasion. We don't do that, we don't use the AI.
In fact, they did use AI to search for evidence of previous trouble by the Maccabi fans. The force also apologised for suggesting it had consulted local Jewish groups.
As a community, I think we all feel that it is the right decision that he should go. I think the controversy around the whole thing from the beginning of September until now has been very difficult to handle. So much conflicting and confusing statements from every direction. But he is the Chief Constable, he's responsible for the West Midlands Police, and from what's come out, it would seem that that's his only step forward.
With pressure mounting, the Home Secretary announced on Wednesday she had no confidence in the Chief Constable. But Craig Guildford always maintained the ban was made for safety reasons. On the same day as Shabana Mahmoud's statement, in Jaffa, fans dressed in Maccabi colours were filmed chanting abuse at Palestinians. Today, Mr Guildford didn't apologise for the original ban, instead blaming the media and political frenzy around his position. In this local matchday pub, we asked what they made of his decision to step down.
He was forced to resign, which is not fair.
I seen it on the news, flash it a little bit on the news, but I weren't, you know what I mean? I weren't really that taken by it. I was thinking, this doesn't make sense, you know, like, why is this going on? Why is Birmingham getting so much press about this, you know, like that? So, yeah.
So you think politics got involved in the decision?
I think so, yeah, definitely.
The Home Secretary acknowledged Craig Guildford's years of service, but said he'd done the right thing in retiring.
Darshna Soni there now, the policing and crime specialist Danny Shaw joins me now. Thanks very much for coming in, Danny. He's held out, but he has gone. Was it inevitable?
I think it was inevitable. As soon as the Home Secretary stood up in the House of Commons on Wednesday and said that she didn't have confidence in him, his position was untenable. I mean, I don't think any Chief Constable is going to survive such a statement by the Home Secretary as that, particularly when she outlined the failings and said that they were damning the findings from the independent review into what had happened.
I mean, that list of failings was quite extraordinary, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't just about confirmation bias. It was about poor preparation, poor handling of intelligence. And then to compound it all, Craig Guildford had to appear before the Home Affairs Committee on 2 occasions because his first appearance wasn't really satisfactory enough. And then he had to apologise for misleading the committee about the use of an AI tool to do some research on Maccabi's last match in England, which we now know was a complete fiction.
And yet today he talks about a political and media frenzy.
Well, there was a political and media frenzy. Yes, there was, and that makes it very uncomfortable to be in the spotlight, and it's not good for the police force to be wrapped up in that. So you can understand why that was a difficult place to be and why he had to quit. I mean, it is noteworthy. He doesn't apologise in the statement for what happened. So I think some people will take issue with that, but he's done the right thing.
I mean, the ban was always going to be a controversial decision in the particular political climate we were in. The report found no evidence police were motivated by anti-Semitism or political interference. The local MP, and we'll talk to him in a moment, says he's been made a scapegoat here and he shouldn't have had to go. Was there any situation in which he could have stayed?
No, I don't think so. Not once the spotlight was on him. Look, I think if he and his leadership had gripped the situation after the spotlight fell on that decision and presented adequate evidence to show why they made that decision, or even managed to sort of present a really strong position at the Home Affairs Committee, he might have survived. But you know, his appearance there really, I think, was the nail in the coffin.
I mean, do you think this is a very unique, isolated incident, or does it throw up more issues more widely?
Well, I certainly think it highlights a problem of leadership amongst the Police Service of England and Wales. There's a review currently led by Lord Blunkett, former Home Secretary, looking into leadership, and that is long overdue. There are other Chief Constables over the last year or couple of years who have been under investigation. Some have retired, some have been forced to quit, some their investigation is still going on. This is not an isolated case in terms of a failure of leadership. There is a real issue there. I don't think there's enough talent in the police service at the higher levels.
And very specifically here, it's about accountability, isn't it? As you say, it's about gripping the situation, but also taking accountability.
Yeah, taking accountability and responsibility. And it does show, I think, the failure of the Police and Crime Commissioner system, I have to say.
Which is now going.
Because it was the Home Secretary stepping in that has forced the issue. If she hadn't said what she'd said, I'm not sure that Simon Foster, the West Midlands PCC, would have actually pulled the trigger himself. And
you talk about the Home Secretary, and it's extremely rare that a Home Secretary says they no longer have confidence in a Chief Constable, as she did the other day. But she also said she couldn't sack him. Does that change?
Yes, it is going to change. She said that she's going to introduce those powers, to restore those powers. They were there until 2011. Then the previous Conservative government scrapped those powers when they introduced the Police and Crime Commissioner system. So I think it's right that the Home Secretary has that sort of backstop power to demand the resignation of a Chief Constable. But it's got to be used in very limited circumstances, because what you don't want to see is you know, a Home Secretary who doesn't like decision that a police Chief Constable has made, suddenly firing them on the spot. That would be
precisely that sort of political interference.
Yes, exactly. These powers have got to be used sparingly.
Danny Shaw, thank you very much for coming in. Thank you. Well, I'm joined now by the independent MP for Birmingham Perry-Barr, Ayub Khan, who you saw in our report. Mr. Khan, first of all, your response to the decision today.
Well, good evening, Jackie. Very disappointed with the decision of the Chief Constable resigning today. It's, in my view, a dark and shameful day here in Birmingham, across the West Midlands, and of course across the country. And I say across the country because I believe this decision is going to have a chilling effect on all public sector workers. What the message is, that if you don't comply with politicians, those that sit right at the top of the chain, and if you don't conform to their narrative, well, you'll lose your job if you make a decision against that narrative. And that's what's happened here today.
This has not been about compliance, has it? Surely it's been about facts. The Chief Inspector of Constabulary, in his report, outlined a catalogue of dreadful failings. The force said they'd consulted the Jewish community groups. They had not. It quoted as evidence a match that had never taken place, the match created by AI. The Chief Constable then told the Select Committee it had not used AI to research. He then had to row back on that. On the basis of that alone, he could not stay.
Well, what we need to do, Jackie, is see the wood for the trees and not get caught up with the weeds. And that's exactly what's happening here. There are many aspects of the findings that carry very little weight. The core findings, in my view, in terms of the most strong evidence that points to this Chief Constable making the right decision, he was impartial. He didn't get influenced by politicians. There was no anti-Semitism. And the most important of all of those items identified by the inspectorate was there was no malign intent. So it was a decision made on a bona fide methodology, yes, there were errors. We're not disputing that, but those errors were insignificant.
They were not.
I just want to deal with it.
Sorry to interrupt you, but the point is that facts matter. You are the chief constable of a major police force. Now, Maccabi fans have a history of violence. The club's been suspended for racist chanting from fans. The club's been fined. But the evidence the force gave was not factual, and there was a long list of factual errors. Why is it not simply accepted that he has to stand down?
Let me deal with that point. The AI hallucination, the game, the fictitious West Ham game, we all know that found its way into the intelligence report. But what did that intelligence say about that game? It said that the West Ham team won the match by 1-0. It didn't say that the Maccabi fans displayed disorder or there was any violence. So if anything, that piece of intelligence, which we know now that was generated through AI, did not have a significant or any influence on the decision, the final decision. So we can nitpick and we can pick up all the errors, but these were not significant errors. And in my view, Jackie, the most important factor, what we're brushing under the carpet, is let's look at what we can all agree with, and that's everybody. That's the Amsterdam police, that's the Sir Andy Cook in his report, and what the West Midlands police said, that there were approximately 800 Maccabi ultra fans, which were on a rampage.
The Dutch authorities took issue with a lot of the evidence the West Midlands police chief gave.
Well, you can come back to me on any point, but let me just make this point, and it's undisputed, because if you check the statement by the police in Amsterdam on the 27th of November of last year, they confirmed that there was a Muslim hunt. Now, I use Muslim hunt because Muslims specifically were targeted, and when you look at what Andy Cook found, he agreed that actually, yes, there was evidence that the ultra fan base went out and they searched for Muslims.
And now, there was evidence.
When you look at the...
Sorry, sir, but
yes,
there was evidence when, the police said that Maccabi fans had thrown a Muslim fan into the water. It was actually the other way around. But just to move on, because we can trade the different facts in the piece.
Let me just deal with that, because I think it's quite important that we get our facts absolutely right and the final decision.
He got many facts wrong, and that is why he's had to stand down.
Well, you attribute weight to all of the information that you have. Some intelligence will carry little or no weight. Others carry greater weight. So when we look at the overarching, the headline, which is agreed upon, is that there was a Muslim hunt a night before the Amsterdam match. How do British Muslims feel today that when a chief constable who has made an impartial...
Mr. Khan, really briefly, sorry, just to end this here, if you would. There is much talk about how this move is important for restoring community trust. Really briefly, if you would. From your point of view, where do you think it leaves community trust in the police in the West Midlands? Very briefly, if you would.
Well, I genuinely believe that West Midlands Police are an amazing police force, and they respond to community needs, and I think that will continue. But ultimately, I think the public, the wider public, and not just the British Muslims, would have lost a lot of confidence in politicians.
Ayub Khan, thank you very much for talking to us today. Thank you.